The Comet? Today? The Comet?
The Comet's coming again?
Tonight?
I don't like the sound of that.
I love the Comet. I'm so happy we get to see it again.
The Comet is happening.
The Comet?
It's supposed to be spectacular this time.
How in the world could it come again? This doesn't make any sense.
Everybody was talking of it, even the president of the bank.
Well, Jim, are you scared?
No.
I thought we journeyed through the Comet's tail once.
Oh, that was Halley's. This is a new comet. Quite a stranger, they say. Wonderful, wonderful. I saw it last night. Oh, by the way, Jim, I want you to go down into the lower vaults today.
Of course, when we go down to the lower vaults, it was too dangerous for more valuable men.
Everything of value has been moved out since the water began to seep in, but we missed 2 volumes of old records. Suppose you nose around down there. It isn't very pleasant, I suppose.
Not very. The vault clerk passed over the keys.
Well, Jim, the tail of the new comet hits us at noon this time.
I passed silently down the stairs, down beneath Broadway where the dim light filtered through the feet of hurrying men, down to the dark basement, down into the blackness and silence of that lowest cavern beneath. With a dark lantern, I groped in the bowels of the earth under the world. I swung back the last gray iron door and stepped into its fetid slime pit. Here at last is peace. I felt carefully around the room, shelf by shelf, on the muddied floor, crevice corner, nothing. Then I started on the far end where somehow the wall felt different. I pushed and pried, nothing. I started away, but then something brought me back. I was working again when suddenly the whole black wall, as if on mighty hinges, shut, and the blackness yawned beyond. I peered in. Secret vault, some old hiding place in the old bank. It was a long, narrow room with shelves, and at the far end, an old iron chest. On the high end, on the shelves, lay the 2 missing volumes of records and others. I placed them carefully aside and stepped to the old chest. It was old, strong, and rusty. The rust was encrusted deep. I looked at the old-fashioned and vast lock and shone my light on its hinges. The rust was really deep. I found a bit of iron and began to pry. The rust had eaten 100 years and it had gone deep. Slowly, wearily, the old lid lifted. With the last low groan lay bare its treasure. And I saw the dull sheen of gold. Boom. I groped for my life, then swung it around. That's when I knew. The great stone door had swung to, but after pushing and pounding and working, it swung again, strike something. Heavy, small, soft, and heavy. I just enough room to squeeze through. Stumbling across the body of the vault clerk. The air seemed unaccountably foul with a peculiar odor. I fell, facing across the corpse. When I awoke, I leaped from the body and ran up the stairs, calling to the watchman. He sat as if asleep, with the gate swinging free. I hurried up into the sub-vault, calling to the guards. My voice echoed and re-echoed weirdly. Hello? Hello? I ran up the stairs. Another guard lay prostrate on his face, cold and still, I ran into the bank. President, with his twisted and oozing mouth, laid half buried on his desk. The stillness of death lay everywhere, bowed, bent, and stretched, the solemn forms of men. Robbery and murder. If they found me there, alone with all that money and all those dead men, what would my life be worth? I glanced about, tiptoed cautiously to a side door, turned the latch, and stepped out into Wall Street. Not a soul was stirring, yet it was high noon. Wall Street, Broadway. I glanced about and then across the street and stared helplessly at the sight. In the great stone doorway, 100 men and women and children lay crushed, buried and jammed to that great gaping doorway like refuse in a can. As if in one wild, frantic rush of safety, they had ground and crushed themselves to death. I crept alongside the walls, trying to comprehend. A businessman, silk-hatted and frock-coated, stone dead, wonder written on his lips. A woman leaned wearily against a signpost, her head bowed motionless on her lace and silken bosom. In front of her stood a streetcar, silent. A newsboy sat in the gutter with the last edition in his uplifted hands. Danger, screamed its black headlines. Warnings wired around the world. The comet's tail sweeps past us and deadly gas is expected. Close all doors and windows. Seek the cellar. Terror burst into my veins and I ran until I sank on the grass of Madison Square, laid prone and still. When I rose, I gave no glance to the still and silent forms on the benches. I went to a fountain, bathed my face, and thought this thing through. The comet had swept past the earth, and this was the end. Was everybody dead? I knew that I must steady myself and keep myself calm or I would go insane. First, I must go to a restaurant. I walked up Fifth Avenue to famous hostelry with its gorgeous and ghost-hunted halls. Biting back the nausea, seized a tray from dead hands and ran out to the street and ate ravenously. Yesterday, they would not have served me. Then I started up the street, looking, peering. Silent. Silent all. Was anybody? My God, how could I have forgotten? I need a car, I need to find a Ford. I found one. I gently lifted off its burden and took its place. I tested the throttle. There was gas. I glided up, shivering, driving up the street. On I ran past an automobile wrecked and overturned. On past another whose gang party smiles yet lingered on their death-stricken lips. On past crowds and groups of cars, causing by only dead policemen. At 42nd Street, I had to take a detour to avoid the dead congestion. On 5th, using 57th, I went to avoid the park and the plaza with its hushed babies and silent throngs. On, I drove up 72nd Street when I heard a shriek. I saw a figure leaning wildly out an upper window. Her voice rang in my ears like the voice of God.
Hello? Hello? Help! In God's name! There's a dead girl in here, and a man. And see yonder dead men lying in the street and dead horses. For the love of God, go and bring the officers!
I wheeled the car in a circle and running over the body of a still child, I leaped on the curb and ran up the stairs and tried the door. It rang viciously. At long last, the heavy door opened and we stared a moment in silence. She had not noticed before that I was a Negro. I had not noticed that she was white. She's a woman, perhaps 25, beautiful, nicely gowned, darkly golden hair, and jewels. Yesterday, I would have been dirt beneath her silken feet. She would scarcely have noticed me. I was not like men. She had pictured men coming to her rescue, but I dwelt in a world so far from her, so infinitely far. We gazed each other. Then the thought of the dead world without rushed in and we started toward each other.
What has happened? Tell me. Nothing stirs. All is silence. I see the dead strewn before my window as winnowed by the breath of God. And see.
She dragged me through the great silken hangings, running the sheen of mahogany and silver. A little French maid lay stretched in an everlasting sleep, and near her a butler lay prone in his livery. Tears started streaming down the woman's cheeks, and she clung to my arm. The perfume of her breath swept my face, and I felt the tremors racing through her body.
I had been shut up in my darkroom, developing pictures of the comet which I took last night. When I came out, I saw the dead. What has happened?
Something, comet or devils, swept across the earth this morning, and many are dead.
Many? Very many?
I have searched and seen no other living soul but you. We stared at each other.
My father.
Where is he?
He started for the office.
Where is it?
In the Metropolitan Tower.
Leave a note for him here and come. No. But first we must go to Harlem.
Harlem?
She tapped her foot impatiently. She looked back and her shoulders shuddered. Then she came resolutely down the steps.
There's a swifter car, a Stutz, in the garage in the court.
I don't know how to drive it.
I do.
In 10 minutes, we were flying to Harlem on the wind. The car rolls and raced like an airplane. We took a turn on two wheels at 110th Street and shrieked right to 135th. I ran inside and searched quickly. Then I returned to the automobile alone. She did not look at me, but said,
You have lost somebody?
I have lost everybody unless. Thinking of neighbors' apartments, I ran back inside and searched and searching. Then I returned back to the automobile. Everybody. The car drove in the park and among the lined dead faces of Harlem. The knotted hands, homely garments, and the silence, the wild and hunting silence. Out of the park we whirled in and out until the great square Metropolitan Tower hove in sight. I gently laid the dead elevator boy aside, and the elevator shot upward. In her father's office, there was no one but a note laid on his desk.
Dear daughter, I've gone for a 100-mile spin in Fred's new Mercedes. Shall not be back before dinner. I'll bring Fred with me. J.B.H.
Come. We must search the city.
In and out and among, over and across, on with that ghostly search. Everywhere was silence and death. Death and silence. We hunted from Madison Square to Spikes and Diver. We swept over Brooklyn. We ran across the Williamsburg Bridge. From the Morningside Heights to the Battery, we scanned the river. Silence. Silence everywhere. We puffed the third time going down Broadway under the boiling sun, then stopped. An odor, a smell, and with the shifting breeze, a stench filled our nostrils.
What can we do?
It was my turn to take the lead. The long-distance telephone, I said to her, then some night rockets, and then flight. She looked at me with strength and confidence. I did not look like men. She had always pictured men, but I acted like one. She was content. In 15 minutes, we were at the Central Telephone Exchange. The grim switchboard flickered in its grim, metallic, sphinx-like immobility. She seated herself at a stool, donned the bright earpiece.
Hello?
Silence.
Hello?
I could almost hear her heart beating in silence.
Hello? Hello? What was that whirring? Surely. No. Was it the click of a receiver? Hello?
She bent
Hello?
close. She moved the pegs in the holes
Hello?
and called
Hello? Hello?
and called.
Hello? Hello?
For the first time, she seemed to realize that she was alone in the world with a stranger, with something more than a stranger, with a man alien in blood and culture. Unknown, perhaps unknowable. It was awful. She leaped and tore the door with bleeding fingers until it swung open. She simply leaped and ran, and she found herself alone in the narrow alley and amid the tall, towering ramparts of tall buildings. I stood at the top of the alley, motionless. She whirled back, started whimpering like a child. She was alone. Alone in the street, alone in the city, perhaps even alone in the world. She found herself again in that long, narrow alleyway and stopped to rest. Then she came walking back toward me and looked at me timidly.
Not that.
No, not that. We climbed into the car and I took the wheel. She bent forward and let out great, dry, quivering sobs. We looked into each other's eyes. The vision of a mighty beauty of vast, unspoken things swelled up in our souls, but we put it away. The world was darkening to twilight, and a certain reality seemed replaced with a dream of some vast romance. She leaned back and fell asleep, whizzing along with the motor. She forgot to wonder at the quickness at which I learned how to drive her car. In and out through Madison Square, at the door of the Metropolitan Tower. I led her to the elevator and we ascended. In her father's office, we gathered rugs and chairs, and I wrote a note and laid it on his desk. Then we ascended to the roof. She stopped and rested and sank to a dreamy somnolence, watching the worlds above and wondering. She looked back at me. I took a shawl and wound her in it, touching her reverently, tenderly. She looked at me. I watched the city, she watched me.
Have you had to work hard?
Always.
I have always been idle. I was rich.
I was poor.
The rich and the poor are met together.
The Lord is the maker of them all.
Yes. And how foolish our human distinctions seem now.
Yes. Yesterday I was not human.
And your people were not my people, but today?
Death the leveler.
And the revealer.
I turned away. After fumbling for a moment, sent a rocket into the air. It arose, shrieked, and flew up a slim path of light and scattered the stars above us and dropped on the city below. She scarcely noticed it. A vision of the world had risen before her. Slowly, the mighty prophecy of her destiny overwhelmed her, and above the dead past hovered the angel of Annunciation.
You are no mere woman. You are neither high nor low, white nor black, rich nor poor. You are primal woman, mighty mother of all men to come and bride of life. Look upon the man beside you and forget all else but his manhood, his strong, vigorous manhood. His sorrow and sacrifice, see him glorified, no longer a thing apart, a creature below, a strange outcast of another clime and blood, but your brother, humanity incarnate, Son of God and great All-Father of the race to be.
I stood, looking outward toward the sea, sent rocket after rocket into the unanswering darkness. Memories upon memories stirred to life from the dead recesses of my mind. The shackles seemed to rattle and fall from my soul. Up from the crass and crushing and cringing of my caste leaped the lone majesty of kings long dead. I arose within the shadows, tall, straight and stern, with power in my eyes and ghostly scepters hovering to my grasp. It was as though some mighty pharaoh lived again or curled Assyrian lord. I looked about and found a lady gazing straight at me. Immovably, we saw each other, face to face, eye to eye. Our souls lay naked to the night. It was not lust. It was not love. It was some mightier, vaster thing that needed neither touch of body nor thrill of soul. It was a thought divine, splendid. Out of the velvet shadows, I was vast and dark. She was pearl white and slender, shone beneath the stars. She stretched out her jeweled hand. I lifted up my mighty arms.
The world is dead.
Long live the... We started backward. We gazed upon each other with eyes that faltered and fell, with blood that boiled. Almost from our feet arose a rocket that scattered its stars above us. She covered her eyes with her hands and her shoulders heaved. I dropped in battle and groped blindly on my knees about the floor. A blue flame? An answering rocket? We stood as still as death, looking towards the opposite ends of the earth. The roaring, ringing of swift elevators made the tower tremble from below. A murmur and babble of voices swept in upon the night. The once dead city blinked, flickered, and flamed. With a sudden clank of doors, the entrance was soon filled with men. And one with white flying hair ran over to the girl and lifted her to his breast.
My daughter.
Behind him hurried a younger, calmer man, carefully clad in mortar costume.
Julia, my darling, I thought you were gone forever.
She looked up at him, strange, searching eyes.
Fred, is the world gone?
Only New York. It's terrible, awful, you know, but how did you escape? How have you endured this horror? Are you well? Unharmed?
Unharmed?
And this man here, why, it's that Julia? Has he dared?
He has dared all to rescue me, and I thank him much.
But she did not look at me again. As they turned away, the father drew a roll of bills from out his pockets.
Here, my good fellow.
He thrust the money into my hands.
Take that. What's your name?
Jim Davis.
Well, Jim, I thank you. I've always liked your people. If you ever want a job, call on me.
And then they were gone. A crowd of people poured up and out the elevators, talking, whispering.
Who was it?
Are they alive?
How many?
2.
A white girl in a... There she goes.
Where is he?
Let's lynch the.
Shut up. He's all right. He saved her.
Saved hell? He had no business.
Here he comes.
Into the glare of the electric lights, I moved slowly.
Well, what do you think of that? Of all New York, just a white girl and a...
I stood beneath the light. A woman mounted herself to the platform and looked about, shielding her eyes. She was small, brown, and toil-worn, and in one arm lay the corpse of a dark baby. The crowd parted, and her eyes fell on me.
Jim!
She tottered toward me, and I caught her in my arms.